Okay, here we are, episode 3 of
TO Battle Talk?
TO Battle Talk is the name of the show. This is Chris. I am here with Mr. Matt.
How's it going?
Very good. How are you?
I'm alright.
We are here to talk about Blackout 4, King of the Dots Blackout 4. We're going to do this podcast basically talking about some potential matchups we'd like to see. Some things we don't want to see. What else?
People we would like to see make their KOTD debuts.
Yeah. So we both have done some separate thoughts on this card, and let's just go through some of them. Today is November the 12th, so this might take a little while to come out, but I think as of right now, there has been very little headway made into Blackout 4. The one battle that I know that is confirmed is Step Easy versus DDSS for the Ground Zero Championship. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think the best way I would characterize it is that it's Step Easy's battle to lose. But on the other hand, I thought that Megadeth was going to beat DDSS. So there's a lot at play here. I think one other element is that Step Easy I think choked pretty badly against Crack, and he was still able to win. So if he screws up, he probably will lose, because I suspect DDSS will bring his best performance.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Step DDSS. Let's take it back and let's talk about the legacy of the Blackout series. The most recent Blackout 3, I think, was the biggest crowd that King of the Dot has ever had. I think it was somewhere about 1,400 people. It was back at the government and completely sold that out. It was also the reason that we started the blog, because we were about 30 rows back, couldn't hear anything, couldn't see anything for about 80% of the battles, along with the other 30 rows of people behind us. So yeah, the whole blog started because basically we wanted a reason to be in the ring.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an event with some good battles and certainly some controversy. An event with some controversy, what with Arcane and Disaster, but it was very difficult to hear the battles, to see them. We tried out many vantage points over the course of the night, and we were very fortunate for the last two battles, the two big ones that everyone wanted to see, which was Disaster Arcane and Pat Stay Math Hoffa. We were able to get a direct line on the ring and hear everything. It helps that everyone shuts up for Pat Stay and he enunciates and you can hear everything perfectly when he speaks. But for the other battles, like Bullets Poe Rich, after the event, I would not, if you had a gun to my head and said, quote one bar from that, I would just say pull the trigger. So...
Yeah, same, and then, like Shoddy Nestle didn't hear anything. Madness Suna Labos, I think we were a bit closer.
We were closer for that one. I think we were close enough for Soul Wise Guy.
Oh
and
yeah,
some of those.
I think that must have been the best battle. From that.
It was the first battle.
Yeah,
and I think that was still the point where people were kind of getting in the venue, so you could get pretty close and. For whatever reason, I don't know, it just seemed like those battles, the earlier ones, were louder. I don't know why. Right. But eventually, once everyone was in and people were only there to, either see Drake or they only came for Disaster or Arcane or Pat Stay, a lot of loud people in there, which is typical of the bigger KOTD events.
Yeah.
And, a lot of battles where people were saying, hey, turn up the volume and stuff like that.
Right. And then, Blackout 1 and 2, we were at 2 for sure.
I was definitely at the 2, and I think that 2 was actually one of the best KOTD events ever. I think a lot of people forget how good that was. In fact,
that was Real Deal Awkwards.
Real Deal Awkwards. That was Cortez Holohan, which is one of the better personal angle battles that has been around. Skelly Pass was on that.
Right. Pat Thesaurus.
Pat Thesaurus was on there. Madness HFK was on there. Nameless Kid Twist was on there, which is a really good battle.
Osa 24/7.
Osa 24/7 was on there.
Aftershock PH. I'm just looking at the card now.
Yeah.
Poe Rich Sketch Menace was the main event.
And Raekwon was in for the last two battles.
Right. Yeah. So that was very solid.
One of the better cards that they put together. In fact, like, if you have Kid Twist, Nameless, like middle of the card, or like the sixth last battle of the night, you know that you're in a pretty good place, because that was an amazing battle.
I think that's probably the one that I have gone back to. The Holohan Cortez I show people, and then Twist Nameless, I guess Osa 24/7.
Osa 24/7 still has a lot of replay value on that one too.
Do you remember anything from Blackout 1?
I was not at Blackout 1, so I can't even think of what would have been on Blackout 1.
I found the card here. Poe Rich Illusion. Is this right? Poe Rich Illusion Z?
I can't.
Dose versus Psycho. Aftershock versus Pariah. Step Easy versus Spook 1. Diaz versus D-Lore. Skelly versus PH.
Skelly and PH have battled?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Arsenal versus Pat Stay.
Okay.
And I was there for that.
I thought that was the first Vengeance that those two battled each other.
This is the first card that I can find when I look up. And then title match Arcane Bender. So I definitely was at this event. I don't remember it. It was 2011, January 22nd, 2011. So
the timing would be right for it.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought that Pat Stay Arsenal was at the very first Vengeance, which would have been, only 2 or 3 months after.
Yeah.
But
and this
probably wrong.
This also, I think, this is the one, was the card that had the number one most viewed King of the Dot battle of all time.
Beatbox battle.
Scott Jackson and Korean FX
versus
Subconscious and Kill a Beat. So I definitely was at this one.
Okay.
This is the one where when I was there alone, because you didn't, I don't even know if we knew each other, but you weren't into rap battles yet. So I was going to events alone. I didn't know any of the people there, but I was a fan enough to go. And I was against the ring when Pat Stay came up, and he was about to go in, and there was so much drama about the Pat Stay Arsenal battle, and Pat Stay was standing on my foot, and I kind of looked up at him like, "You're standing on my foot," and he just kind of like looked down at me like, "Hey buddy," but didn't move his foot. And I didn't know if he knew that he was standing on my foot and just wasn't going to move it, or if he hadn't heard me.
Yeah.
Didn't understand. I don't know. So anyhow, that was my first impression of Pat Stay. And yeah, so I think that going from this Blackout card that we just read compared to Blackout 3 and what we're going to be suggesting for Blackout 4 just shows how much the league has grown in the course of what is about 3 years.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because, Nebula versus CL, Diaz, D-Lore, Dose, Psycho, like, none of these guys are around anymore. Okay, so we talked about the legacy of Blackouts. We talked about the one confirmed match. Let's get into who we want to see at Blackout 4. Let's start with the undercards. I have a few ideas for undercards. The first one, we'll start light. KP versus Megadeth.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I think
I've got no problem with that.
My reasoning behind that one is both do gun bars, both lyrical, both have good performances. Megadeth, people have been calling for Megadeth to get like a main stage battle for a long time. He tore through the Ground Zero until that loss to DDSS. Beating much tougher competition. Beating AM, we beat Cobalt.
Right.
Which I
think there's maybe someone else in there too.
He did beat somebody else good along the way. KP, I thought, had the performance of the last Ground Zero event against a guy named Code. So KP was very impressive in that. And I think that KP, he won either Most Improved or like one of the King of the Dot Ground Zero awards last year. They haven't even named nominations. We should do another podcast on that for the record. But yeah, I guess he's been like shown promise for the last year and a half. Had a couple. He lost in the first round to not Pariah, the Ground Zero guy that looks like Pariah.
Not sure.
What's his name? Everybody, he's like 10-0 in Ground Zero, but what's his name? Postal. Thank you. He doesn't really look like Pariah.
Not sure.
I don't know. Whatever.
I'm not picturing anything right now.
Yeah. So yeah, he lost to Postal in the first round. People were calling it a robbery. I thought it was close, but anyhow, KP's good. Megadev's good. Throw them. I think they could both do well on the big stage, both animated. That's the first one.
Okay.
Second, undercard. NPOs.
Sure.
Versus City Towers.
That's a really good one.
Yeah. Nice.
That's really good. Yeah, I was very impressed with City Towers Daylight. I thought that was a great battle. I mean, it's the quality of that, I think, is significantly better than Dirt Bender.
Oh,
just like
by far. Also came much earlier in the night.
Yeah, there are a number of reasons why it's better, and it doesn't have to do necessarily with the battlers themselves.
And it also may have contributed to the reason why Dirt Bender was so poorly received by the crowd, was because the chaos set off. Anyhow,
makes a lot of sense, that one.
Yeah. City Towers Daylight, for the audience, check out our Battles of the Month October, because I've included it in there. We've got a bit of a recap, a bit of a write-up, our thoughts on it, or my thoughts on it, and then 4 other battles from October that we think you should watch. So check that out. Just plug it before I write it.
May as well plug it.
City Towers, he was very impressive against Daylight, impressive against Lex Luthor in iBattle. I think he's only battled in iBattle, but on the strength of those performances, and I think specifically the Daylight battle, Unbiased Review, Chris from Unbiased Review, dropped like 5 guys that need Proving Grounds battles, and City Towers was one of them. So it seems like we're not the only people taking note of City Towers. And then NPOs had some very, very impressive performances. He was like meteoric rise against Realistic. No one had ever heard of him until Realistic, and then that made the main channel. The other one, he did really well against Young Casper, I think.
He did do very well against Casper.
For those two.
Young Casper.
Yeah. And then he had a World Dawn battle that was it was just like off for the event. He had a lot of theatrics, which was just a bit weird in such a kind of laid back atmosphere.
I think he does this Terminator thing a lot. It brings various level of gear to his battles based around it. You know, whether it's like a contact lens or a face mask or something like that. NPOs is, in my opinion, likable and charismatic enough that he doesn't actually need this
Agreed.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if it's sort of like Daylight's pervasive influence on the culture that he's like, hey, I'm going to bring, a little extra something to my performance. But I don't actually think he needs it, because he's a very likable, funny guy. Like
he's a good freestyler.
Yeah, he raps very effortlessly. He gets the crowd on his side. You just like watching NPOs perform. That you don't need like a Terminator t-shirt.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, a Terminator t-shirt is subtle. Some of the other theatrics with like his women like being like, we need to turn it up. It's like, and then like programming him to in the 3rd round to take the victory or something. Was that the
World Dawn?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't watch that, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't. Now that you mention
awkward.
it,
Yeah.
and then I really enjoyed the Bullets battle he did. In fact, I really enjoyed Bullets in that battle.
Yeah.
We'll talk about him later because I'm sure he'll be on the card, and I'd like to see him again.
Yeah, for sure. That is a good. It's worth a watch. A new Windsor League. I thought the footage was good. I liked the hot girl dancing in between rounds. I thought there was a lot of screaming from women during N-Pose's rounds. There's a lot of screaming.
There is a lot, yeah. And you get, if you look at the comments on that, it's what people are talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, which is not good, but in terms of the actual rapping itself, like, N-Pose probably rapped twice the length of Bullets. Like, for him, this was obviously by far his biggest opponent to date. So he did what I think is slightly a bit of a rookie mistake, which is bringing tons of material to the table. Because Bullets was probably bringing like 90-second or 2-minute rounds at tops, whereas it seemed like N-Pose is going 3 to 4.
Yeah.
And I think in the end, Bullets' material was just tighter, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that battle, kind of half watched it, and my impression was that it was a pretty easy victory for Bullets. Who I think
he had some really good lines. Like, he had a N bombs on stage like Michael Richards line or something. Like, just like really fantastic writing. Like, his writing is really top tier right now. But anyway, we shouldn't talk about Bullets.
Yeah. One last thing about that. I think I saw him mention that on Facebook that part of those rounds were recycled from the TWO battle in the URL Proving Ground that will never get released.
May as well use them.
Yeah. One more thing too, like, just like, Don't Flop and King of the Dot for, like, just big ups for putting out every battle. You know, whether it's good or not, put them out. Let the fans see them, because I think it's important. Like, URL is cutting chokes. They cut a choke from Hustle out of the Summer Madness footage against Jazz. They're not releasing battles if they don't meet the high standards of the URL. Yeah, you just made a face.
Yeah,
it didn't get picked up.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to say anything on that, but that is not good.
Yeah,
because you're taking away from what is the essence of that battle too, right? Like, you can't. It'd be like this step crack battle, taking away a guy, fucking up basically, which was the only way that people supporting crack could argue that he won it, right? Mm-hmm. You're taking away in basically the debatable aspects of a battle. It's another thing, like with Nameless and PH, for instance. Nameless looks at his phone just very subtly in his round. It's tough to notice because his back is towards the camera, but people know that something happened there. That's what makes it a debatable battle, because it was close to begin with.
Right.
If you just completely scrub that out, then people aren't going to have something to talk about. And that's part of the fun of this, right? Is that people are going to get on the forums or on YouTube comments or on Twitter,
right,
and everyone's got an opinion on something. And if you take out something that is essential to the battle, which in the venue everyone sees and notices,
and tweets about and talks about,
exactly, and you just create a worse situation, because if everyone in the venue, and I mean the big URL battles are pulling in over 1,000 people, if all of them are on Twitter, I bet, and not all of them, but I think most of them are, and they're saying, "Hey, what happened to that choke?" That's enough people where suddenly everyone else is like, "Hey, what did happen? Like, I wasn't there, but I want to see this."
And that's it. Is like, oh, how do you factor in a choke in terms of deciding who the winner is? It's like, oh, well, they edited out a choke. Okay, was it a 9-minute Pesci choke against Real Deal, or was it a 10-second stumble, or did they check their phone? Did they not? Did they? Anyhow, another topic. Let's get into these. Blackout for. I have one more undercard. I like this one a lot. Notes versus Danny Myers.
That's That's fine too. That's good.
Did you watch the Danny Myers?
No, so I don't have much to say.
Okay,
about it,
he was great. He's so energetic.
Well, everyone's saying that was the best battle of the first night, but one of the best battles of the year. I hear people saying.
We'll see. We'll see what the footage looks like.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't see it in pay-per-view. The crowd is great. The battle's great. The battlers are great. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. It comes out like December 27th, so we'll have about 3 days to like choose whether or not to include it in battles of the year.
Right.
But I think the thing that I've always liked about Notes is like his performance in the venue is so energetic, so entertaining. Same with Danny Myers. I think Notes doesn't get enough credit for his bars, which I think are there. Danny Myers, they both seem to be very authentic when it comes to their street imagery, and I think they could both do really well in either a big stage setting. It seems like this is another thing to mention about Blackout 4 is that it's 2 days. I don't know if it's going to be 2 days, one like almost like Battle of the Bay 6, where it's like 1 day kind of smaller venue, 1 day larger venue, or if it's going to be 2 days like
or like World Dom.
Yeah. The other thing to note is that from what I have heard, they're not releasing matchups ahead of the event. They're only releasing participants. So they're saying here are the 20 guys that will be battling. See ya at Blackout 4. So they will not be saying this guy is battling this guy. They're saying here are the names. Come and see what happens.
Is this exclusive info that you've just dropped?
This is the first time I've heard anyone mention it publicly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting idea, and you may as well try it out once. I don't think there's anything to lose by saying, "Hey, these 20 awesome guys are on the card."
Right.
And I think a lot of savvy people will be able to put together a few of them anyway. Right?
Yeah.
Like if we had for World Dawn this summer, hey, Disaster and Arsenal are both on this card. I think most people would have assumed, well, they're going to battle each other.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, with something like J Pro Enigma, you wouldn't necessarily know. There would probably be 5 guys on the card that J Pro could conceivably face. But with certain battles, like things that stylistically make sense, or just the stature of the guys,
right?
Because Disaster is not going to be facing Notes, right? So you can figure out most of them. I don't think it's. You may as well try out this concept once and see if people like it. Yeah,
I like the idea. I like that it adds a lot of speculation, so that it's not just like, oh, well, Diz Arsenal, let's speculate about that. It's like Diz 6 other guys that he could be facing. Let's speculate about each of those. Let's do like a mix and match and see, everyone's going to have their own idea about what the card actually is going to look like, which I think is fun.
So, a couple things. One, it's going to suck to do a preview post for us. 2, how does this affect another press conference?
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. The first part of that, I think...
Because you went to... Okay, so just to make things clear, I was not at the press conference, but you were, and you enjoyed it.
And it was awesome. Yeah, it was so professional. It was probably like one of the best events that King of the Dot's ever thrown. Like, they had, like, it was full of people, whether media or fans. Like, there was to some extent media, but it was like everything was taken care of. There was food, there was alcohol. The battlers were 95% there.
That means just Pesci.
Pesci was not there. Yeah. The atmosphere was great. It was just like it was in anticipation of what felt like the biggest event that Toronto had ever thrown. There was so much potential. All of the like bickering back and forth between the guys was great. It was a lot of fun. So I don't know if they'll release maybe a few of the main events at the press conference, which would definitely make more people tune into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. And then in terms of preview, it's just like we don't need to talk about the matchups. We can just talk about the people and where they're at. And we can even do like predicting the matches. Anyhow,
yeah,
we'll see. So we're 31 minutes into this podcast.
Okay, I'll do one quick. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
you've mentioned it before. I'll spend just 2 seconds on it. I don't know if it's right for the venue, but we've for a long time wanted Kaine's Lex D.
Yeah.
And if they do a format with small venue first night, sort of like Battle of the Basics, followed by main, the big venue, that would be great as one of sort of like the headline ones of the first night.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it would work so well at the Opera House because I think in terms of humor from like Lex D it would work. Not that Kaine's humor is a problem, but Kaine's with material that he's not as confident in, he kind of mumbles through it a bit, and that's sort of potential to lose the crowd. But whereas I think the crowd just says fuck it when it's a small venue, and it's kind of hardcore fans anyway in those situations. So I mean, I think you've mentioned this one before.
I like that a lot. Yeah,
but it's the type of thing that like if both guys bring great material, it could just be like a sleeper hit of the year.
Yeah, agreed. And I think both of them are funny. I think that Kaine's has a bit of an edge when it comes to sophistication and writing, but I think Lex D has the edge when it comes to charisma and comfort in the ring. So, but I think both of them are funny. I think both of them are good writers. And I thought, did we already talk about this, or did we talk about this off camera? The Elite MC Kaine's was one of the best battles of October, one of the funniest. And Kaine's is also, his rebuttal game
it's really good.
It's out of this world.
It's one of the best.
Yeah.
In KOTD.
Yeah, and they don't tend to be all that long. It's usually like 2 bars, but his Life of Pi rebuttal, and again, check our October Battles of the Month post, because Elite MC from South Africa mentions something about Life of Pi and Kaine's is brown or whatever the setup is. But Kaine's is like, yeah, it's like the Life of Pi because you're gonna have to pray to every god to beat me, and it's like good bar, good concept, but it's also like proof that he either saw the movie or read the book.
Yeah.
So to like be able to take that material and like kind of show how much you know about it, it's not just like because I'm a tiger and I'll slash you. It's like no, it's like such a subtle reference.
He also had one of the best flips of the year was I forget the guy
Twizzy versus Twizzy
with the 3.5 inch floppy disk one, which was like just brought the venue down.
Yeah, that's another Twizzy versus Kaine's in Ground Zero. That's another one to look at. Let's take a break. I need to get a beer. We'll pause it and we'll come back with the bigger name Blackout 4 callouts. Let's go. Okay, here we are. We're back. We now have more beer. I've got some battles next to me that I think should be on Blackout 4. I'm going to move into the mid-tier now. We're still not quite at, not mid-tier, but mid-card. Let's say that.
Sure.
I want to see Uno Lavos versus Caddy Ron.
Yeah, you've been asking for that one for a while.
They both agreed to it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like no league, because from what I can tell, Aspect has no interest in setting up a Lavos battle on the West Coast.
And what's that reason?
He just doesn't think he's
like him?
worth it. I don't think he's I don't think he likes him. I think he thinks he's a bad battler. I think that he, focuses on Lavos's 30 chokes.
Here's what I would say in defense of Lavos, and we've seen him perform many times at this point. If we're thinking about a larger venue like the Opera House, he kills it.
Yep.
In those venues, not to mention that these bigger KOTD events draw a lot of non-hardcore fans as well, like people there are a lot of people there who are going to be at their first battle event. So Lavos, who is for the most part a pretty likable, really funny guy, he can bring the house down, and
Yeah.
we saw that with Purpose. Like that was, I think, the
first battle. Yeah.
first battle of the second
Day
night.
2. Yeah.
And he absolutely killed it, and people in the venue thought that he was robbed on that one.
Yeah.
And likewise, he won against Madness at the last Blackout. Again, huge venue. He killed it. People didn't like that decision either. Regardless, he's very good at these big events.
Yeah.
And I think he's also more polished at these bigger ones too.
Yeah, I think he puts in more effort because he knows that it's a much bigger stage. I also think that Lavos is a guy who's entertaining enough that I would rather see Lavos choke than a lot of other guys rap for 3 rounds. Lavos, even when he's choking, is entertaining. And I think, was it him versus PH? There's some battle. I think it is him versus PH, and he's like chokes.
A grind time battle, like grind time now battle, maybe.
It has that feel, but it's less than a year old, and
a year ago they were still making grind time.
Yeah,
videos.
well, it's not. It's somewhere in kind of northeastern United States. I can just look it up, but he chokes his way through that, and PH kind of punks him, and it's a super entertaining battle.
Right.
So anyhow, Lavos versus Caddy Ron. We still don't know if Caddy Ron can actually get into the city because, or get into the country.
Right.
He was supposed to battle at Quarantine a few weeks ago. LAX shooting happened. He made it so that his flight didn't go in time for the weekend.
Right.
There was talk that he was going to try and get in and do the battle. My sense was that was a test run to get, like, see if he can come in.
Right.
Put him up against somebody who's like local, and then if he does well and if it works, try him for Blackout. I don't think that battle's, VoiceBox just folded, I think. So like there's one fewer leagues out in the West Coast right now.
It seems like a venue that VoiceBox actually seems like a place where that could have happened.
Yes.
Because the travel time for Caddy is not that much. And as we've seen, Lavos is somehow at every battle event.
Yeah.
Like he'll go anywhere on the continent to battle, and even to England. So
yeah.
What is it? Battle
He's a
Rap
truck
Z
driver.
League. Yeah.
Battle Rap Z League. Yeah. Uno Lavos versus PH, March 20th, 2013, VoiceBox battles.
Oh, they did VoiceBox?
Yeah.
Wow.
Check that battle out. That's I don't know where it is, but I got the sense that it was.
I thought that they were based in Arizona, but they must have done an East
They
Coast.
they have an event that people are wondering if it's happening with Ron Ines in Philly.
Ron Ines, wow.
ZM A Class. I was talking to A Class the other day, and he was like that this event is supposed to be their last one because Lex Luthor versus Young Cannon was supposed to happen on the West Coast, but that is not going on anymore.
Good battle too.
Anyhow, I don't know where this one happened. But.
Okay. I don't have a lot in terms of mid-tier stuff. What else do you have?
Speaking of Lex Luthor, I'd like to see Lex Luthor versus Madness. Madness is super consistent. I think he's one of the more entertaining, funny, pop culture referencing, violent, legitimately violent, like, authentic dudes. And I think Lex shows signs of all of those things. I think that he's a funny guy. He's got a lot of charisma. And I think that Lex has never really had a huge name opponent. Dirt. He was going to have Young Cannon. Cynical. Like, he's kind of been toiling against low-tier guys other than Dirt. And he's always shown a lot of promise. And I think that Madness and him have enough in common to make it a good battle.
I wonder if Madness is sick of getting robbed, at least from his opinion and from a lot of battle fans' opinions, in Toronto.
Who else? Oh,
he lost to HFK, which people are going to have a lot of opinions about.
I remember that battle.
Very close battle with Lavos, and there are a lot of people who thought that he took it. He didn't take the approach I think that you would have thought he would have taken for that battle as well. And then I'm trying to think if there's a third time that he was up here that he may have lost and shouldn't have. Either way, I'm wondering if he's just like, fuck these Toronto crowds.
Yeah, I don't know. Madness always seems fairly good-natured to me.
Yeah.
He's had kind of a rough year in that he didn't get out to battle O'Shea and don't flop. He got stopped at the airport this year. Not on the Battle of the Bay 6 card. Like, he's kind of like he is battling Ty Law. He has battled Johnny Storm down in Florida. There's another one. He battled another really good URL type guy recently. I forget. So, but that's coming out soon, and it's apparently also good. Did he battle? No. It was Caddy, but I'm all confused here. It was Caddy battling Johnny Storm, and give me one of your.
Did he battle a cannon? One of the cannons?
Oh, Big Cannon. That's who it was.
Okay.
Yeah. So Big Cannon first, battling Ty Law coming up, who are both really good writers, impressive performances from both those guys. So he seems to be taking matches that he's more interested in that are good writers and strong performers. So I don't know. I mean, you could give him a big name, but I think this would be a better battle, the Lex Madness battle. Hit us with one.
This one would be mid to high area of the card. This one, okay. So I think I would like to see Chilla Jones come to Toronto to make his debut here.
Yep.
The obvious one is Bullets, right?
I think there's two obvious ones because I was going to say Real Deal.
That was my other one.
Yeah.
I have both of those written down.
Me too. Okay, good.
So I think, either you go for the two guys who have sort of a similar style, and people have been talking about Bullets and Chilla forever, right?
Yeah.
Either you just settle something that people have wanted for a long time, or you settle something that Real Deal started at the last major event in Toronto, saying Chilla is the biggest mark to come out of Boston since Wahlberg, which was one of the best lines of the entire event.
Yeah. And then Chilla responding at Battle of the Bay 6, making his King of the Dot debut, saying, like, you teach a sped class.
Yeah.
And, so there is definitely, I don't want to say bad blood, because they both seem like pretty nice guys, but there's definitely, like, they're setting it up.
There's hype for it, I think. Yeah, absolutely. So I would be in favor of seeing either of those,
Yeah, and I guess it comes down to, like, who would they battle if they're not battling each other? So, like...
I have another idea for Real Deal.
Okay.
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Ilmac.
Yeah.
The reason being, they're two amazing guys who pretty much always deliver. They've been around forever. They can rebuttal. They go way back. It's shocking that they haven't faced each other. And before I say anything more, I actually saw someone suggested this battle on RMBVA, so I have to give credit to someone. I saw this suggestion and I thought, how has this battle never happened before? Two great guys who've been around for more than half a decade now and battling and been good for that long. And
Real Deal Thesaurus is one of, I think, the great battles of that era of Grizzle Mania 2. Ilmac, I don't know why I gave up on Ilmac, but I watched Nestle Ilmac this morning. It takes place in like a parking lot that I was at in Oakland, and someone was like, that's the spot where they battled when Massacre of the Bay got shut down. Ilmac is so good. Ilmac is one of the greats of all time, and I kind of like
sure. People
after
always
Arsenal
forget,
and like for you because he just wasn't doing much for years. He had the Arsenal, but then it's like his Mana's battle was one of my favorites in a long time. His Archaic battle, he got completely robbed by, I think, one of the judges, maybe even the deciding judge, was like, my head says Ilmac, but my heart says Archaic, so I'm gonna go with Archaic. It's like, no.
What do you mean your heart?
It's like, Ilmac won, but I'm gonna give it to the guy.
But I'm in love with Archaic.
Yeah.
And his Bender performance is one of the great KOTD performances of all time.
One performance of the year, and
and if you watch back, Bender was actually really good in that battle, and somehow Ilmac lapped him,
right.
which is just which gives you an idea of just how good he was. And I've said this before. I'll say it again.
Mm-hmm.
He was so good in that battle that he closes by going after the bouncer. Like, like he was done battling with Bender by the end of the battle, and he starts like going after the guy for like frisking him a little too hard or something like that. So I mean,
but when he said it, everyone in the venue was like, they'd all been through the same process. And
and that was at the old venue on Richmond Street. Yeah. And for those of you who have not been to a battle event, a KOTD event before in Toronto, that's where most of the big events used to be held. And they, when they would frisk you at the door, I'd never been frisked by a man actually, but we would get frisked by women primarily, and it was almost like assault. Yeah. Like they would, I had a woman's hand go under the elastic of my boxers when I was there.
Whoa.
And I was like, you're so close to touching my dick right now. I had to, in a pair of shoes I was wearing, they said, lift your heel. And I said, lift my heel? What do you mean? And they had to check under the arch of my foot to see, like,
if there's a gun. There's probably a gun under there.
A gun or just like a dime bag or something like that, right? And so you were like minorly assaulted anytime you went into this venue. So for everyone in that venue at the time, Ilmac saying something about the bouncers there and the security, like everyone there was eating that up, because everyone going on the way in, like after people would get frisked, people would just be looking at each other being like, what the fuck just happened? It was so weird. So yeah, I mean, the point being, Ilmac is one of the greatest battlers of all time, and he had a lot to prove against Big K, and he came with it. And unlike Big K, he can get into Canada. So let's see him battle.
The thing is, he can't get into Canada.
Wait, Ilmac can't?
That's the latest I've heard, is that Ilmac can no longer get into Canada.
So he's been charged with something in the past 2 years or something.
Big K makes reference to like, oh, you think you're a gangster because you got a little weed charge. I wonder if that might be it. But it's like he's from Portland.
Yeah.
It's like where it's legal in Oregon now, isn't it? Or is that Washington?
It's legal in Washington State, in Colorado.
Okay. Well, anyhow. So, but unfortunately, that also ruins one of my favorite matchups. Another one that I can't believe it hasn't happened. I had to Google to make sure that it hadn't happened. Ilmac versus Roan.
It's another good one. We'll talk about that in a second, but I have a battle for Roan as well.
So it's kind of a moot point anyways, because Ilmac can't get in. But Battle of LA, Ilmac Roan. That's a battle. Both these guys are on such hot streaks right now, and both have been around since Grind Time days. I think Roan is one of my favorites of 2013 easily.
Yeah,
and so let's hear, who do you want against Roan?
The return of Kid Twist.
Yeah,
it's kind of a bit of a mirror match. I think you could run that as like your third last battle of the night, sort of return of Kid Twist. Also, it completes the trifecta with Fresco. Because Fresco Twist, Fresco Roan have faced each other.
Yeah.
This is sort of like the last thing to complete the triangle. And I think the only thing against that, though, and I don't know if this is a scoop for the people listening, and I'm not sure if they still are listening. But for those people who think that Kid Twist is retired, he hasn't really retired. Like, he has said, when we spoke with him at World Domination, that he would come back under the right circumstances. The only thing, though, is that he wants to do something kind of out there and like not the typical opponent. and you weren't there at the time when I was chatting with him, but this was after the second night, and Sharon walked by and he said, "You should face Shotgun Suge." Because I mean,
Twist?
Yeah, to Twist. Because I mean, obviously the shotgun thing didn't happen with Sharon, and I mean, that would obviously be hilarious. Yeah. But you know, I think it would be great to see Twist come back for the right type of performance. I don't know if this one's it. Maybe this would have been, I think him and Roan maybe 2 years ago would have been really great.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is the battle he's looking for now.
Yeah.
But I think with the right one, he will come back.
Twist has said in the past to me that he thinks battle rap has gotten too serious, and that it used to be so easy to be like, oh, well, you know, I'm not really racist, and I'm not, like, it's just battle rap. So I think that as it's gotten more competitive, more serious, more global, I think you've seen Twist kind of take a step back. And you saw his style change in 2012 against Bullets and Lavos, and he
Nilsum Skills,
yeah. Nameless. He was a lot more. He just kind of tried to mold himself into that like serious, tough, and I think Twist is at his best when he's like funny and goofy and smart. And I think that in the last year we've seen a pull at the beginning of the year, a pull towards the URL, but now you're seeing more of a pull with Marlo, with Shuffle T, with Lex D, with these kind of funnier guys. It's kind of making battling fun again.
Yeah.
And I think that Twist fits in that. But I think Roan kind of does both of those styles very well.
Yeah.
So it would kind of depend on if Roan can come back to that like fun, funny, goofy style.
Would you want to see it?
Yeah, I'd watch Twist against anybody, to be honest. Like,
for sure.
He's one of my favorites, and it's been too long since he's battled. Yeah.
I have a crazy 2-on-2 suggestion that will not happen.
Okay.
Marlo, Shuffle T. I think one of them, if not both, should come, and if they're in a 2-on-2, that would be great as well.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, I think we're getting slightly off track, but like in terms of KOTD debuts, it would be great to see one of those guys, because I think that they are perhaps the most influential guys of 2013 in a way. Like in terms of battling, it was we got into very serious gun bar territory for quite a while.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other leagues outside of URL were kind of adopting that style as well. And then these guys came along and just turned things on their head in a very clever way, and it wasn't cheesy, and they were just hilarious.
The Bad Bars battle you're talking about.
Yeah, the Bad Bars battle. But even since then, like Shuffle T versus Anton Murphy, where he just eviscerates the guy, right? Like, you know, starve for attention, like David Brent in that training session, like all this stuff is just like,
I think
so good.
And the Marlo Eek battle is also in our October battles of the month. Go check it out.
Yeah.
But I think what Marlo and what Shuffle T do so well is that they're not only funny and have huge presence, but they are so good at being direct and at cutting down their opponents' personas, personalities, histories. So I think that, you know, gun bars are stale at this point.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of knows it except for diehard URL fans. Yeah. I think that Don't Flop has influenced the scene in the sense that it's making people a bit more self-aware, and I think that's good, because it means that you can't just like have the same 10 guys coming up with 100 new ways to like shoot a guy, and having those ways get more and more outlandish and more stretched in terms of like metaphors and whatever. So I think that the UK scene is doing a lot for battle rap in the sense that it's just like making it kind of fun again.
Yeah, I think a big element of what's great about the UK battle scene is that they have very good crowds. Like when we did an interview with Nameless, 100 Bullets, that's on our site, and he said by far the best crowd is in the UK. They're very accepting, and I think one way in which that is great is that people are probably willing to take risks that they wouldn't in other leagues, because if you take a risk in URL, you're possibly getting booed off stage, right? And I think, that's not necessarily the case in KOTD, but like people are very respectful of what you're trying to do, I think, in the UK. And if you try to dissect a guy in a cutting way, but also want to make people laugh at the same time, people aren't going to be like, that's corny. Or, you're not hard, or something like that. They're going to be like, hey, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
But we'll talk more about Don't Flop in our episode 2, which we have yet to record. This is episode 3.
Anyway, so for a 2-on-2, and this is out there, as I said, I want 2 people to team up who have been out of the scene for a long time. One of them is Twist.
Yeah.
The other one's Nameless.
Yeah.
There's a bit of symmetry to this. They have faced each other both individually and pre-KOTD, back when Nameless was Organic's partner. They've faced each other going way back in 2-on-2s. Their last battle was at the same event, World Domination 3. Both won their battles.
Blackout 3.
World Dom 3 was PH versus
Nameless
and Nilsum Skills versus Kid Twist.
Mm-hmm.
They both won. They've both not battled for a year and a half. I don't know what their personal relationship is like, if they would want to work together. Mm-hmm. But it would be a pretty wild return if the best 2-on-2 team in Marlowe and Shuffle T in the world right now went up against the return of 2 very veteran guys who have never been on the same team, but have done the format quite a bit and are very respectable battlers.
And I think that pairing almost makes more sense than Twist's traditional 2-on-2 partner, which is Poe Rich, who I would like to see come back to the scene eventually. I don't have anyone for him to face at this point. But Nameless and Twist both seem like smart, funny, strong writers. Nameless was rumored to be going up against Mark Grist at 5th birthday, which would be another great one. Grist, I guess, is on tour, some sort of poetry tour, so it didn't happen.
Poetry tour. That's
which
the
I'm
first
sure
poetry tour I've ever heard of.
But it's like, I guess he's getting paid and is probably doing a pretty cool job. Did you see Grist versus Sage? Somebody Sage?
No.
The guy chokes for... It's like in front of a massive kind of festival crowd.
Oh, yeah.
The guy chokes all 3 rounds. And
purposely?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't do it on purpose, but he drops one line and the crowd's like, ugh. And then he's like, okay, just go. And like his rounds, it's crazy. It's one of the most awkward battles of the year, which is another thing.
Oh yeah, that's a good list we should put together.
But man, go watch that battle if you haven't seen it. Mark Grist versus Sage. The Thesaurus battled him in Sweden. Spirited Sage, that's his name.
Spirited Sage, great name.
We just hit the 1 hour mark. If you're still listening, we've still got several more battles, including the main events, to talk about. A few that I'm not 100% on. Arcane Cortez. Who are you going to give Arcane?
He seemed to be interested in B Magic, but who knows if he can get into Canada or wants to, right?
Yeah. The other question is I think his asking price is like $3,500, which would make him one of the higher paid guys.
That's not good.
Yeah.
I don't see either guy turning that down.
Yeah. The problem with Cortez is that he seems to be at every event.
Especially lately. Yeah. There was a time when he didn't actually battle that much, but in the past 4 to 6 months, he seems to be everywhere.
Yeah, and he seemed like he's always pretty good, but at the end, I can't quote a bar.
Yeah.
So I think him, Clips, him and Clips seem to be going all over. Oh, DNA is another guy that seems to be
three of them seem to be at every event.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of dangerous because you don't want to oversaturate. They're all at big events. Like, they're not doing like, whatever, like Southern Delaware's Best Battle League. Like, they're at the URL Awakening stuff. They're at Battle of Day 6. They're at World Dom. They're at 5th Birthday. But it's kind of like that's a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that battle. Okay. I at this point, I think KOTD will throw a good competitor at Arcane. I think he's gone through quite a bit in that, 7-month span between...
More than that. It was like 10 months. It was like from Blackout until...
Well, Blackout was January until end of August or so. Yeah. Like, it's a pretty long span of time there where he was just, people just were ripping on the guy, and a lot of the time unfairly so. So I think, Organic's a really smart guy, I think, and he probably knows that, like, hey, this guy took a lot of abuse. Let's bring him some good competition and see how he does. He always brings good performances. He will with a big name competitor. It'll be worth the money.
And that's it. He's taken a lot of abuse and then put on a very impressive performance at World Dom. Against one of Canada's most beloved rappers in Paste.
Yeah.
So Arcane versus a big name. Cortez was the natural one, but I think again, like Arcane Clips, Arcane DNA, Arcane Cortez, like Arcane versus an established American, URL-y type rapper, I think would make sense. Bender versus Thesaurus.
I have that on my list, actually.
Yeah.
The reason that I'm into that, one, I mean, they're both great battlers, but Thesaurus has had a tough go lately. Like,
2 battles canceled.
Looney, that didn't work out. He, for whatever reason, wasn't able to get in the UK. Maybe we'll talk about that
last episode.
Talk about that another time.
Yeah.
And I think at this point we need to give him someone who lives in Canada who will reliably be able to get there and doesn't have to travel very far, who is also very good.
Yeah.
I mean, Thesaurus has never had an issue getting into Canada for a battle, as far as I know. And I mean, he's maybe the best battler of 2013, even having missed some battles.
Yeah.
That's how good his other battles have been.
Yeah, I think that Thesaurus is definitely in the running. If he had bodied Looney at World Dom, definitely,
which he probably would have.
And if he had 3-0'd Archaic in Don't Flop, he
probably would
have exactly. But Archaic, I mean, they could have, both opponents would have arguably put on strong performances as well.
And I think they would have,
And even if it's debatable, or if he 3-0s him or whatever, like, Thesaurus is always in the running when it comes to performance, bars, directness, and I think Bender and him is kind of a clash of titans. There's also like Bender Big T is being thrown around a lot.
That's been thrown around for a long time. I would prefer actually Thesaurus. Thesaurus has said that he's been trying to get that battle going for a bit. Like, it seems like, I've seen him talk about him versus Bender on the forums and stuff like that. And I think, I think that would be, it's a reliable battle. Both guys people are into. Big T also did a lot of weird sound effects his last battle. So I don't really...
Yeah.
Sort of pew pew sort of like sounds. I don't want to see that.
I don't know. I know Big T versus Surf is supposed to be one of the best battles of all time. I don't think I've watched it more than once, and it didn't impress me at the time. It's like it's got so much hype behind it that when I watch it, it's like I don't see what the hype's about. Right. And this is an unpopular opinion, but like, what has Big T done? I couldn't get through the O-Red battle.
I couldn't either.
Him versus K-Shine? Did you watch that?
Yes. His first round is pretty good against K-Shine. That bunny ears line.
Oh, yeah, right. But even that, I don't know. Big T
keep all my boys around the wood fire like Boy Scouts or whatever. People speak about Big T like he's on Bender's level lyrically, and I don't really see it.
No.
Like, he's not doing stuff like Granite Fist to your chin like Rodin's Thinker, which is like really like intellectually up there. Keep my boys around the wood fire like Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of creepy because guys who take Boy Scouts into the woods are questionable characters themselves.
Yeah. All right. You heard it here first. Big T's overrated. I'd rather see...
I actually kind of like Big T. I don't mind him. And guess what? He is 50 Cent's favorite battle rapper.
Yeah, wow.
Which doesn't really get him any points in my books. But most battle rappers say, oh, Lux, because they don't know anyone else.
Right.
Or Disaster.
Right.
Like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, actually, to see someone... Although Kevin Durant's a big Sue Surf fan.
Right.
And segue, I would love to see Sue Surf.
Sue Surf. Against who?
Fuck, I have no idea who he would battle. Like, I'm not sure there's a KOTD person that's a good matchup for him. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know what his situation is, if he can get into the country or not. I'm not stereotyping right now either. I feel like I saw a rumor about him that he has a criminal record.
Right.
So that's a tough one, but a thing about that is, outside of Gnome 3, Night of Main Events, sounds weird to say gnome, because it's like a garden gnome, right? Like, Direct, I think, was shooting some videos, and Organic was at the event. And he asked Organic, who's the one person you want to see come to KOTD? And he said Sue Surf. So I'm wondering if Organic wants to set something up to get him in, right?
I just can't picture...
I don't know who would do it, but like I really like Sue Surf. I think he's really good. That I really like that conceited Sue Surf battle. Yeah, that's one of the better URL battles from in the last year. Although it's just about a year old now.
I think it was a Christmas.
They released it Christmas. It was the event that got shut down, didn't it? And they had to move that. Right. They moved that battle like to another venue. Yeah. And frankly, they moved it to a smaller venue where it probably looked better in the end anyway than in front of like 2,000 people. Yeah. But anyway, he's someone that I would like to see, but I really don't know who they would put him against unless it's the type of thing where Disaster comes in. Right. And it's just because he's like a top tier guy and he's a big name. Yeah. And that's just what happens.
So let's talk about Disaster. So I think the two... So Blackout will have a title match. Let's skip right to the main event here. From what I can tell, it's going to be Diz Pat Stay. But from what a lot of people want, it should be Sharon versus Pat Stay. Right. Pat Stay, in my interview with him in the summer, said, essentially, I don't want to battle Sharon, I want to battle Disaster.
And what's the reason? Sharon's not a big enough name?
Sharon's a punk. He's a little kid, you know? And I'm Pat Stay. And then Disaster and him had been going back and forth. The impression that I have is that Pat Stay... Because I think I even asked him, do you get to choose your next opponent? And he said yes. Okay. So my impression was from, like... Pat was like, I'll do you this favor and take this arcane battle, even though I don't want the chain, and have been saying I haven't wanted the chain for the last career that I've had. Yeah. But next I get Disaster. What do you think is going to be a better battle?
Sharon. I think would be a better battle, just because Sharon's ability to freestyle and flip stuff makes it a considerably closer match than a lot of people would give it credit for. I don't think Pat Stay would completely walk all over him.
Right.
I think he would get big and sort of like punk him in a way, not in like a very threatening way, but in enough of a way to be like, look at this geeky guy. But with Disaster, I mean, we've seen him once in a title match.
Shit the bed.
He did not do a very good job, and I think he didn't do a very good job because he thought
You're talking about it because there's Poe Rich and Arcane.
Yeah.
Which one are you talking about?
Oh, sorry. I mean the Arcane.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't do a very good job in that one. I think because he thought that the PayPal stuff would come across in a way that everyone would just boo Arcane the whole time, and he would just completely get everyone on his side, and he didn't really have to prepare because he had this piece of evidence that was above anything else that was going to happen. As it happened, with 1,300 people in a venue, people didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
And then he did some freestyles that were not tremendous, and everything fell flat. I don't feel like he should get another title shot so close to performing poorly in the last one. Whereas I think Sharon is someone who, I mean, what has he had? Probably 15 KOTD battles at this point, getting progressively better opponents and bringing better performances time and again. At some point, they have to give him a shot. And I think against Pat Stay, it's such a clash, like a weird clash in a way. You've got a guy who's like big 250-pound guy versus skinny nerdy dude. It just seems like a good style clash.
I think I agree. Like, Sharon is on a tear, a global tear. He went to Australia, he bodied, he went to the Philippines. I think that his like subtitles battle, I'm not going to check it, but I think it has more views than Looney Disaster at this point. He killed Unanimous in the UK.
Tremendous battle. Great battle.
I thought 3-0'd DNA in the room. The footage is a lot closer. People are still calling for DNA 2-1. URL fans are still calling for DNA 2-1. But I thought that was a clear victory. And in the second round, that's undeniably. Sharon goes crazy in that one. So it's like he's in terms of himself, he's incredible. In terms of opponents, he's been like laying waste through, in the Power Rangers with the putties. He's just like slapping away guys that aren't putting up that much of a challenge, I guess, except for DNA. But Sharon, if you just look at him as a combatant, as a battler, he's been incredible.
If we don't get a Sharon Pat Stay title match, what about Sharon Thesaurus?
I'd like to see it. That was rumored in the works for Quarantine. However, Thesaurus turned it down so he could go, because 5th birthday weekend was too close. That didn't work out. Hindsight is whatever.
Probably wishing he just did it.
But another thing that Thesaurus has said publicly a few times is, I already beat Sharon in a
2-on-2?
No, in a 1-on-1 freestyle battle on like a World Dawn Day 3. There is footage. It's out there. He did win it. The way I see it, like, Sharon's a new guy. In the last year, he has become Sharon 2.0.
Right.
And if Thesaurus doesn't realize that, then it's like, oh, I've already beat Sharon. It's like, no, you didn't beat this Sharon. Sharon is a new beast, I think. So I'd like to see that.
Well, I've seen a similar thing where people have said to Thesaurus, have mentioned other battles to him on like forums. I think one was like Kid Twist or something. He's like, oh, well, I beat him in a 2-on-2 at some, like, tournament in 2007.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but, like, times change. Like, for a lot of KOTD fans and current battle rap fans, like, they don't know some of this old stuff. Like, a lot of it's still pretty new to them, and this stuff, even though it may be considered a rematch to you, it's not a rematch to a lot of people.
Right.
And there's reason to do it, and the production value will be 100 times better than whatever the hell the other battle
shot
is on
from the
that.
third, 3 rows back, with on a cell phone or something.
Yeah.
I have written down. I don't know how feasible this is, but I'd like to see Sharon versus Pass.
Oh my god, I've never considered that. That would be hysterical, and I don't like. Sharon would obviously bring good flips and things like that. I don't know what Sharon, like, we've said this before, like, how do you attack Pass, because he's just seems like a cool guy.
Yeah.
Whereas I think for Pass, Sharon, there's going to be plenty to talk about. And
I think that's kind of the ultimate test for Sharon, is to battle a guy that there's not much to say.
Yeah.
Against.
Really respected in the community.
Yeah. West Coast legend.
Yeah.
And who has been on a tear. I'd like to see Passosa still. I don't think that'll ever happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if Pass will ever battle in Canada again after what he said in Battle of the Bay 6.
What did he say exactly?
He said against DNA, he brought up the OSA thing, and he said, I heard some Canadians want to ban me from King of the Dot. But I forget where it goes from there. But it's basically like, no, we're not doing that. I'll be here, battling. So,
well, if it's not going to be Sharon, then maybe we have someone for Sioux Surf.
Yeah,
I think he would get on a plane to go to Canada to face one of the top guys in URL.
Yeah,
but now that I think about it, that's maybe one of the only people in KOTD that could battle Sioux Surf.
So let's do it. Pass Sioux Surf.
Sure.
Diz, Pat Stay, Sharon. Gaddis.
Gaddis.
Yeah. I would like to see Gaddis Holohan. Gaddis should be at this event.
Gaddis Holohan.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Or Gaddis Bonnie versus Holohan Sharon. Like,
what about speaking of Osa, it'll be a year and a half since his last battle. We would like to see him. I think we're both fans of his. Is there anyone else that he could go against? I've tried thinking about it, and I just don't know what's a good matchup for
Remy
him.
D. Remy D should be on this card too.
Oh yeah, Remy D maybe.
And I think that there's also the possibility of Roan Remy D.
Yeah,
could be a good one.
Yeah.
I have here down Tricky P, Dirtbag Dan. I think could make for a good battle.
Oh yeah, that might work. The only problem with Remy D is for the venue, it might not be right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he would consider it, but if they do a smaller venue the first night and put like a good headliner, the type of thing where like, hey, we realize you're not going to be on the main card here. This is not a slight against you. It has nothing to do with your skill. In fact, it's because of your skill.
Right.
Like, you are such a good rapper that 1,400 drunk people who want to see Drake are not going to get it. So we want to put out the best product possible for you.
Yeah.
So we want to get you in this smaller venue. We're going to have you against a great opponent. And we're going to do something top-notch production-wise, put it out, and people are going to eat this shit up.
Right.
That's what I think would be a great move for him.
Yeah. I agree. And his Nestle battle, I think... we talked about this in the last one. It came a little bit too late in the night. People were having a hard time paying attention to him. And he's such an intricate, kind of camera-friendly rapper that you do need to figure out a way to get the venue paying attention to him. And, I think he's a charismatic guy, but he's not like a big stage, huge presence guy.
Yeah.
So anyhow, Remy D. Another one, Caustic, I don't think can get into the country anymore, but Caustic Holohan would be another great one.
That would be great.
And I think Caustic, who is known for bringing up the dirtiest dirt that you've ever had in your life,
God.
versus Holohan, who's had everything said to him. And I mean,
but there must be more, and I'm sure Caustic would find it. He's like an investigative reporter with this shit.
But like going back to the Kid Twist Holohan battle, where Kid Twist spends, I think, most of his third round being like, "Oh, you had sex with a tranny," or something about a transvestite, and Holohan just kind of like nods and is like, "Yeah," and is not fazed by it. And because Kid Twist had thought what he had was like this devastating personal, and Sharon, why am I calling everybody Sharon? And Holohan just kind of nods his head and it doesn't faze him. Then I think that kind of gave Holohan the victory in that. But yeah, Caustic Holohan I think could be good. Do I have anything else written down? Pesci versus Sirius Jones.
Wow, that's out of nowhere, but yeah, that's another great one.
DNA Awkwards.
Yep, that makes sense.
Grudge. Bullet's Dead Man.
Yep.
We're at an hour and 30. We're going to call it there. Any other questions? Any other thing to say?
No, that's basically everything I had.
Bam. Thanks for listening. This is TO Battle Talk. I'm Chris.
I'm Matt.
Check us out. Twitter, TO Battle Blog. Facebook /TO Battle Blog. The web, tobattleblog.com. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.